Alrighty, episode number 6 of You Think You Know Me. Yes, I decided, you know what, I'm going to continue this series. I'm not going to just do a one-off explaining what to expect in 2019 on my channel. As a matter of fact, I think I didn't do the best of job explaining it, so I'm going to go into greater detail. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road as you're listening to this quote-unquote attempt of making it into the podcast world on a weekly basis. Alright, so without further ado, this is January 4th, 2019. Believe it or not, it is also the day when the annual Tokyo show is. And be fitting to call it, How Am I Getting Over? Because in the world of professional wrestling, getting over is everything. Unless if it's the WWE, when you try to get over, you get punished for it. Whereas myself, I'm trying to get over in this quote-unquote YouTube world. So this year I decided, you know, the only way to get over is to do stuff consistent. There's one particular notable YouTuber that talked about how I'm inconsistent. Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes being inconsistent has a lot of ramifications and validity. You just gotta be open and understand why there's ramifications and validity. My valid reason as to why I'm inconsistent is because I don't half-ass my work. And also, the long series that I've done, every red flag, and the NASCAR television graphics, is no joke. It takes research, it takes time, it takes literally a day to look at every single race from the Cup calendar, skim through to see the cautions, how it caused it, and whether or not there's a red flag. And if there's a red flag, I camcord and record all of that stuff, compile the information, see what track, what event, what lap it took place, and all that jazz. It's not just like, okay, red flag, plaster it. No, by now you've seen my videos and know how it goes. As far as the NASCAR television graphics, it takes a lot of time. It needs more than a week's work. It can't be done in a day. It can't be done right away. It needs a script. It needs my opinions. It needs to be well written. And also some substances as to why I like this graphic or why I hate it. That's where those are my reasons. But going into 2019, might as well do it when the pot is really warm. So this is my way of being consistent, is to see how this podcast format works. If it does well over time, there's motivation. If there's not, then I have to really decide if I'm meant to be to do these podcast forms. Now, ramifications is of course the numbers. I already talked about on the last episode in that quote-unquote long overdue 1000 sub specials that numbers are everything, it seems. If you don't do this or you don't do that and follow the norm, you're not going to get any numbers, like views or subs. Remember this, 2 years ago in 2017, I was in the 200s. Just barely in the 200s. Now starting 2019, I'm pushing 1,500. And every one of those, all these subs I value. I don't really go into that detail unless if it's a special video I wanted to do. And I talked about it that I'm going to be planning to do music discussions. Like, do I like this #1 song? Do I hate this #1 song? From either a year specific or a song specific. Some instances there might be decade instances. As far as when I'm going to start doing that, it's going to be coming very soon. As a matter of fact, that may be the #4 series that I'll be focusing behind this one. You think you know me, every red flag and NASCAR television graphics. Because I already told you that I'm planning to do the Daytona 500. I'm planning to redo the Indianapolis 500. And as far as Xfinity and Truck Series, it's going to be more or less on a season-by-season basis. There's going to be inconsistent because, as I mentioned, it's very difficult to do every single season with those latter 2 series because either there's no footage available online, and then there's one particular channel, Old School Racing Network, that's been taken down. This is a possibility of a possible purge going around that may not just impact AMA or any form of two-wheelers. Somewhere down the line, it may be coming soon. I don't know how, I don't know when. NASCAR could be facing that purge too in YouTube. Remember the WWE Network in 2014? We could possibly see that down the road. I have that feeling it's going to happen relatively soon. And it might be as early as 2020. Whether it may be true or not, that's up for debate. But enjoy. All I'm going to say this is possibly enjoy while it lasts. Get all these races as best as possible, because you never know when that purge is coming. And when that purge is coming, it could be a huge, dark day within the racing world when it comes to YouTube, particularly in NASCAR. You don't have to worry about IndyCar at this moment in time. NASCAR is borderline at this moment. Formula One, no, don't even try it. WWE programming, forget about it. Nowadays, it's two-wheelers. So, for me in this case, who does research and compile stuff and keeps it original, these Xfinity and Truck Series races has to be instantaneously within this year. And I do have a list somewhere that's been compiled by a group of people which truck and Xfinity races are not up. And as I mentioned multiple times, every single race has to be up. And sometimes it better be the original broadcast, not the ESPN Classic or Speed Channel condensed ones, for me to really understand if it warranted a red flag or not. So that's why I said more than not, I'll probably only focus from 2000 onwards for both Xfinity and trucks, which leads me to this update. So finally, remember that old help needed video about the Mac 10th Max Holman crash? I found out more details as to what happened. Unfortunately, one notable YouTuber that was there, that I brought up, known as Griffdog, he said he didn't capture the wreck. He mentioned it in his year-end video, if you want to give it a look. He said he was focused on the excitement that was the restart. And who can blame him? I think everyone was focused on that epic 3-wide battle for the lead on the restart, and nobody acknowledged or focused on the wreck itself. So far, there's no footage. No footage means it's really hard to understand how it happened and how much I can show of it. But then again, anything 2013 onwards is going to be short and to the point because of how NASCAR runs things when it comes to their modern stuff. Anything before 2013, as I like to refer to anything pre-Gen 6, fair game. It can be lengthy. That's what the 90s red flag races were all about. And guess what happened? It barely made a dent in the view count. Do I care about that, really? No. As long as NASCAR finally acknowledges these red flags and puts it on the record book, or even reference how many times there's been a red flag in the season, then the hard work paid off, because that's my end goal with these red flag videos. To the point that NASCAR acknowledges that, let's say there's a red flag for a big wreck at Turn 2 at Michigan, and there was already 6 red flags prior to it. That I would hope that the day I hear like the 7th red flag of the season is out right now here at Michigan International Speedway after a 15-car wreck on the backstretch. Once I hear something like that, that means people from the powers that be have seen it. And that's my ultimate goal, to get red flags recognized. Because online, it's only 2004 to present, and sometimes they don't specify the red flags. Like, for example, if it's rain shortened and the race will stop, it doesn't count. Or if it gets postponed, sometimes it doesn't even count. More case in the point of Richmond 2007, when the first 11 to 13 laps were under caution. They were counted. It was a green-yellow condition. Then they brought all the cars to the pits. It was red flag. Then they postponed it. Because it was under green-yellow conditions when those laps were recorded, they abolished it. They aborted it. So the following day, it was back to lap 0, and when the green flag waved, it was the opening lap. It was not lap 15, 16, and so on. While that could be considered borderline, it has to be counted in my record book as one of the multiple red flags that was in 2007. And I'm hoping somewhere down the line, I do a retrospective video of the Cup Series red flags going back to 1990. As far as anything before 1990, that's still up for debate, because from what I looked at the list of races that are not up, it looked like 87, 88, and 89 are all up. Problem is, within those time periods, there's still some tape delays and some that's just only highlights or just condensed versions of it. So that could be different. I will come up with an answer as far as whether or not I'm going to go to 87, 88, 89. But for sure, in Xfinity and trucks, it's going to be more than likely 2000 to present, with some years not going to be probably ever uploaded, because There's some years that are missing a boatload of races, like the 2003 Craftsman Truck Series season. A large chunk of them, a good chunk of it if I recall, are not up. I can't do a red flag 2003 for the Truck Series if not many of the races are up. That's my condition. All the races have to be up for me to do a red flag video. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of the series, every red flag. So unfortunately, overall, there's no footage of the Matt Tiff Max Tolman wreck. But the good news is, since NASCAR didn't want to put it up, someone else did. The full race of the full Iowa race is up on YouTube. The whole thing. So that makes my life a lot easier if I wanted to do the every red flag of the 2018 Xfinity Series, which will now for sure happen. As far as showing the cost of it, it's gonna more than likely have to be a reenactment. I may have to talk to some reenactor, see if that individual is willing to do something. Because there's one video that's up on YouTube that was a reenactment of what might have looked like. There was a mid-Ohio wreck by the 90 car. It's up, you'll find it. I'll probably post it in the link below or show it. I don't know how I'm going to execute it. And speaking of executing and all of that, over time there will be more visuals, like video. For the start of it until a certain point, it's just going to be still images and all that. So it's mostly meant to be like what it's supposed to be, listened through in the background, like audio. In the previous episode, I showed some of my photos to kind of buy time because I wanted to get it out before the 2019 rolled along. That's not going to be always the case. Like for this one, it's just mostly going to be just a still image of the title card, or some instances I'll show something on there with clip credited on the text. But other than that, it's just meant to be mostly audio for now. Over time, if this continues to be successful and grows, then I'll start showing more. But the face reveal, don't count on it for the time being. That's not gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen anytime soon. But yeah, the 2018 red flag video for Xfinity is gonna happen. So will the trucks. It's just a matter of when I'll get to it. I don't know. It may be how I did it with Cup. I pick whatever year I feel this so desire. But before I move on, 2013, 2014, if I recall correctly, also 2010 will be the first 3 for the Xfinity Series because those were requested. Anything beforehand is mostly up to me unless somebody comments to do this season. And I'll look at it and see if every race is up. If 1 or 2 or multiple or half the season are up, I can't do it. I can't because you never know if there's going to be a red flag in it. You never know. And for me, I'd rather just not risk it and just put it up knowing that who knows that one race or two. Some I remember, but when it comes to Xfinity trucks, it's mostly a semi-blur for a large number of them because I gravitate more to Cup as far as memory is concerned. Xfinity and trucks is more like, oh, now I remember this, or oh, must have forgotten about that one. That's how it is with the lower series. When it comes to Cup, it's easy to pick and identify. Some instances I've honestly forgotten certain red flags, but some I instantly remember. It's like, okay, this is an estimate of like there's probably 12 to 15 red flags. Like this thing was red flagged. Okay, that one's reasonable. That thing was red flagged, and for that reaction, what I just did, that was a red flag. That was the Mark Martin thing because people, even in the comments, people said that, oh, sure, a 24 car crash didn't brought out a red flag, but Mark Martin's car stalling in turn 3 did. Here's the thing. It's that red flag rule that they had back in the day before the green-white checkers came to be a thing. Thanks to what happened at Talladega in 2004 when Vickers spun, and because of a simple spin, it just felt like they ran out of laps and Jeff Gordon won, and people threw shit at Gordon. Like Budweiser cans and Coke and Pepsi cans and all that stuff. Before there was a green-white checker, that's what it was. They would red flag at a certain point. If it passes like 5 to go, very unlikely we'll have a red flag. But there may be a good chance that may restart it with 1 lap to go. It has happened multiple times before. That was the case with Mark Martin's red flag as to why they stopped it instead of just running around laps. They wanted to give him as many laps. It was a weird time in the early 2000s, at the tail end of the Winston Cup era. I wanted to let you guys know. Now, you may be wondering, how am I getting over? Why is it called how am I getting over outside of just being a wrestling term? Here's the thing. When you look at the big YouTubers in NASCAR, it's not really like monster big, like 100, 200, and millions of subscribers, like the pit of a fool known as PewDiePie, who I think is garbage. I don't even want to talk about that. I don't even want to talk about that Nimrod. Penguins did a better review of big rigs than him. Or even Cinemassacre with 2+ million subs. It doesn't matter the rank. Those are monster subs. When it comes to the racing world, you have Soundhead, you have Chef Fabiano, the Kamikazes, and then the many, like in the 20s to 30,000 subs, like Kamikaze and David Land, and even Joseph in the double-digit form. No, that would be in the 5-digit form as far as subs. There you go. That sounds a lot better. Whereas, like myself, who's trying to crack 1,500, is virtually a nobody in the world when it comes to them. They already are established. There's some that are now established. And for me, I came to the conclusion it's more or less whatever floats and whatever trends and whatever quote-unquote consistency, you're gonna deliver home runs. Whereas myself and even a good old YouTuber long-timer known as Frisky Nixon, and I realized and I came up to a conclusion as to why the quote-unquote old-timers don't get the numbers. And I'm not counting the race uploaders, because they're a different breed. The good kind of breed, by the way, because without them, none of our content would have been possible. Absolutely not. That's why when it comes to the NASCAR TV graphics in particular, I put the uploader on the bottom left screen. Unless if blocking a certain graphic I'm talking about, I move it to the right or on the top. That's why I credit them, because they're the ones that makes life easier and for me to explain things. Makes it a lot easier. Without them, I can imagine none of these contents that are very popular right now, or revolutionary or original, which are very hard to come by these days, possible. And then I also led to the conclusion that nobody gives a damn about the old school. That's why I've referred to the 90s Red Flag Series as more of a disappointment in the numbers, but I don't really, but to be frank, they gotta be up. They gotta be up. I can't just ignore the old school. In my opinion, the best time period of auto racing. When I do IndyCar, it's gonna be the same thing. I'm not gonna neglect the 90s. I'm gonna include every year possible. For the IRL, the formerly known IRL, now IndyCar Series, which, by the way, is expected to get a new title sponsor. An announcement is supposed to come out very soon. More about IndyCar in a moment in this episode. But I can't ignore that. And even the Car Champ Car days, if I wanted to tackle red flags in those series, I can't ignore anything a certain time period. I will say this, though. When it comes to kart, it will be 79 to 2007 under that banner. And as far as IndyCar, the current IndyCar, 96 to present. There's no skipping years unless otherwise. I will say this, though. 1989 for kart, it will happen. Because there's one particular race that is not up, that has an elusive intro song that I dare to know what it is it called, and who did it. I swear it sounds something like Jan Hammers from Miami Vice, but it's not Jan Hammers. I looked at anything that's from Miami Vice. There's nothing Jan Hammers that sounds remotely like the intro from the 89 Road America race. As a matter of fact, here's the audio of that 1989 intro. Oh wait, there's no audio because one entity blocked that race for whatever reason. And I did saw that race when it was up for the longest of time, and there were no red flags, so I can continue with 1989 if I wanted to do 89 right out of the gate for kart. And then there's the debate about IROC. When do I want to start focusing on IROC? Because there's some that are still not up. Do I want to wait for that long, or do I want to just say, as much as I want to do IROC, it's not going to work out. Daytona and Indy will. IndyCar is eventually what I want to conquer at some time. And same for the car. Formula 1, there's a damn list on Wikipedia to find out all the red flags. I don't need to do a video. It's Formula 1 too, so thankfully Formula 1, there's a Wikipedia page about F1 red flags. if you want to give it a look. Well, don't believe me, give it a look. Type in, I think it's called List of Red Flag F Formula 1 Races, I think. But yeah, the Red Flag Series will continue in 2019, but it's not going to be strong in terms of whipping them out as much as possible because of the restrictions and flaws about the Xfinity and Truck Series. There will be mostly some specials, but don't be too excited about it, because I will do them, don't get me wrong. Whichever seasons that have every race, though. Because when it comes to lower series, they're very hard to collect and compile because of interest, and also just that stigma of it's just the lower series. Cup was a lot easier because it's the premier series. Of course, you're going to have every race up. And it just grew and grew and grew, and I did it at the right time. Where Xfinity and Trucks is still taking a while. That's why every time you see a new race that has not been up or you don't recall, you watch them and thank them. You thank them. I can't tell how many times I've been excited over qualifying videos. Because I remember qualifying being the absolute #1 thing to watch immediately after school. It's like, school's over, let's go watch Cup qualifying. That's what I literally did as a kid. That was the one thing I was excited about, Cup qualifying. Nowadays, nobody gives a shit about qualifying. No one really cares. I don't go out of my way to watch it, really. Which I should, honestly, this year, to where I'm going to discuss more about my professional career in a bit, with one big announcement along with it. But and honestly, do people care about Cup qualifying anymore? No. I don't think anybody cares about qualifying anymore, unfortunately. Back in the day when NASCAR was the it thing, people watched it. People showed up to it. It's like a race within a race. Like, oh, nice pace scheme. Can this car make it? Oh wow, 49 entries. Can Ryan Newman win the pole again? Or, oh, I wonder if they're gonna wreck. Okay, that wasn't me if they were gonna wreck, but I'm sure there were a lot of people that crave for wrecks. A lot of people do. Still has that bad aura that people show up to the races just to see a crash. It is what it is. But for me, I mentioned about, speaking of crashes, that's why you gotta use your head. Drivers need to use their head a little bit more. But what the hell do I know about driving? I don't even have one. More on that in a bit, and I'm going to be very brief about it. But it's an interesting time for 2019 when it comes to Red Flag. And I already talked about the TV graph. It's going to be every 3 months, because for me, it will give me more time to put everything together, give me more time to do other stuff, and I don't put myself deep in other stress and developmental hell, like with the TNT video that was supposed to be in April and it wasn't uploaded till like probably late June, which, if I recall, that was the 10th anniversary on my channel. And that 10th anniversary video will be coming before the channel turns 11. I just don't know what I'm going to do with that. Okay, speaking of music, let's talk about music for a bit. The #1 song is still Ariana Grande's Thank You Next. What do I think of it? Not a good song. It's mediocre at best. It sounds like a fucking bitch-made, clingy, cash register, lingo. It's like, don't give a fuck about the song. Excuse my language, but I don't care about it. It's just, I don't know. The video. The only thing that I'm like, okay, is the video. That's mostly because Elizabeth Giles is in it. And that's pretty much about it, Elizabeth Giles. And I talked about Elizabeth Giles in my 2012 Kids' Choice Awards video when the day of the event took place. It was literally uploaded like about an hour and a half to 2 hours after it ended. It's one of my personal favorite videos that I've done, because I did it, boom, right away, gave my instant thoughts, took notes of it. Race reviews. I want to talk about race reviews for a moment. How I'm planning to do it. I will talk about the races in this series. You think you know me. What I think of it, how I feel, the hot topics, and all that jazz. Not just with NASCAR, but also IndyCar, and I'm hoping the aims of Formula 1 if I could get my rear end to get up at 5 in the morning. Because I live in the West Coast. 5, 6 a.m. is the norm when it comes to Formula 1 races in this area. So expect some Formula 1, but don't count on to do it every race. When it comes to IndyCar, I'm going to do the best I can to talk about it. And as far as NASCAR, I'll talk about it. But as I mentioned, it's just a matter of people are interested. And those are going to be right away. They're not going to be like the back end of the newspaper. Or last but not least, it's going to be right away. Because I figure, let me see how it does right away compared to it at the very end. And then people say, tune in to 3544 to talk about the race. No. I want to make sure that's not happen. No. I want to make sure that does not happen at any point. But if it does, it's got to be reasonable. But yeah. As far as specific race reviews, this leads me to this announcement. Specific race reviews, it's mostly if it was a big one, like a major race like the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, Talladega, the elimination rounds, the final regular season race, and of course the championship 4. Those are the ones. But because I write for a certain website, the ones that I do go cover, they're going to be special episodes of You Think You Know Me, where I talk about not just the race itself, but the weekend itself. Man, I used itself twice. Though not just the race, but the whole entire weekend itself. There, that sounded a lot better. As I mentioned, this is raw, live, unedited. This series, I want to keep it as unedited as possible. But as long as I have some sort of ideas to talk about it, I stick to it and don't go all over the goddamn place like I did on the last one. Which was a 45-minute recording condensed to 38. This one, don't expect it, as you're listening to right now. It's in its truest form. Except when there's some clips and audio, then it will be spliced up. But for the most part, it's going to remain as such. And as far as what races I'm planning to cover, that is still to be really determined. Right now, there's one confirmed, all but confirmed. There's one thing that got confirmed, is mostly a personal goal that I've been trying to do since I graduated at Idaho in 2016, and that is Media Day. What Media Day, you may ask? Tune in once I figure out more confirmations. It's almost there. I can't really say it yet, but it is Media Day. But which Media Day, you may ask? It's definitely not IMSA, because that was today as I'm recording it. Yesterday, when you guys are hearing it right now, which January 3rd, it was the IMSA Media Day. January 4th is when this is uploaded. For those who bother to listen to somewhere down the line, like in, I don't know, 2021, somehow you're listening to this episode. January 4th, this was uploaded. January 3rd, 2019 was Media Day. Alright, enough rambling. But it will be Media Day. I won't say which one it is, but it's coming relatively soon because the racing season is about to start. Once the last bit of the puzzle is confirmed, I'm ready to share it. It's kind of a big deal for me. As I mentioned, Media Day is one thing I wanted to do. I'll get to do Media Day, but I can't tell you right now which one it is. Now, let's talk about the other races that I have in mind of probably doing and covering, that I'm kind of aiming on. From the NASCAR side, of course, I'm planning to hopefully go to Sonoma, cover the June race. I'm hoping, I want to do at least 3 to 4 NASCAR races. Texas is another option. Maybe Homestead, maybe Phoenix. Sonoma's the only one that is pretty much I can do, because where I'm from, I'm the West Coast guy. On the West Coast. If you haven't heard my Haley Deegan interview after she won in Meridian, it's as West Coast as you can get. I'm from the West Coast. Meridian, it was a 15-minute drive from Meridian to the Boise airport. It's a 15-minute ride. It was easy for me to cover that one. I've done the Monroe. I've done the Sonoma race that Will Rogers beat the likes of Eric Almirola, Eric Jones, Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, to name a few. And by the way, speaking of Deegan, she had a great battle with Eric Jones. And at one point, I felt like she was going to get by Jones, but it was late in the race. The car just couldn't really handle it, and she went wide, kept the car under control, no less. And she couldn't catch Jones, but I felt like she could have easily got by Jones. It was an interesting battle. But by that point, Will Rogers was long gone and already won the race and beat Eric Almirola by somewhere within 7 to 14 seconds, if I recall correctly. I had to go back in my work and see what was the margin again. But yeah, generally it's Sonoma, probably Texas, more or less. I don't know if I'll only do the spring race or I'll do both, and maybe I'll do Homestead. As far as Charlotte is concerned, let me tell you about Charlotte. From Seattle to Charlotte is a pain in the ass to find an affordable flight, because when it comes to this world, finances is everything. It literally is finances being the name of the game. I have to be articulate, and that's one of the things I want to do is cover at least one major race every other month, whether it's NASCAR or IndyCar. And speaking of IndyCar, Portland is a definite. Long Beach is a must for me. I like to do Long Beach. It's probably gonna be the first IndyCar race I do. And then as far as the other ones, probably at Belle Isle, maybe Texas. I thought of doing Texas, but the problem is there's one particular sanctioning body that moved theirs to the NASCAR weekend, which made it a little bit difficult and complicated for me to do the IndyCar race weekend at Texas. And then also, it's relatively close to Sonoma. Then again, if I were to do the Cup week, the NASCAR weekend at Texas, it's going to be relatively close to Long Beach. So it's more or less pick and choose. Be wise financially. And when it comes to journalism and media, that's what it is. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned thus far in my young career, is to simply play the finance right and properly. Because if you don't, it will bit you harder than Kwame Brown's NBA career. For those who don't know Kwame Brown, essentially he was hyped as the next Kobe, the next MJ, and he did absolutely nothing with it. He's like, no, I'm not gonna compare it to Jamarcus Russell, because basketball and football are two different things. But he ended up being absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, MJ was strong and consistently good and better than Kwame Brown was. Then again, it is MJ, but this is MJ when he was in the Washington Wizards, which he didn't do terrible. He had some great runs, and I think if I remember correctly from a tweet or a discussion or a video that I heard from the good old man Bruce Blitz, he talked about how MJ when he was a Wizard, he had a possible MVP run until injuries kind of held him back. I'm not fully entirely sure, but I do remember that MJ wasn't terrible. This is the thing. MJ had a pretty good. He was good. He was really good as a Wizard. Criminally, a bit underrated on that aspect, but he was nowhere near when he was in the absolute goat of all ghosts in Chicago. No, that was all over him. He did show some flashes of brilliance and gave some hell of a performances as a Wizard. Which, speaking of Michael and goats, Michael Schumacher turned 50 today on Thursday. Well, not today, because you'll be listening on January 4th. Turned 50 on Thursday. Today, as I'm recording this. No doubt in my eye, it's an entire debate that deserves its own video. Who's the GOAT of Formula 1? Is it Hamilton? Is it Schumacher? Or is it Senna? Or you even toss in Juan Manuel Fangio, Jim Clark, or even Grant Hill. Who's the true GOAT of Formula 1? For me, Schumacher was my guy. He was. How can I not deny the Rosa Corsa Marlboro #1, the Ferrari in 2004? And when Formula 1 was the second series I ever followed behind NASCAR's. Formula 1, you had the beautiful liveries, the beautiful cars, the V10 engines. That's the glamour of the lifestyle, and also open wheels. It's a different breed, and I just gravitated it real quick. Sure, it was when I started watching Formula 1. The first Formula 1 race I watched was the Malaysian Grand Prix in 2004. Was it Malaysia or Bahrain? It was one of those two. I think I've always said it was Malaysia. It's just seeing the sport. Here's the thing. The only driver that I knew at the time was Juan Pablo Montoya. And then when I watched Schumacher, how he eviscerated the field, how quick the Ferrari was, and even the air horns blasted, it was like, Schumacher's the guy. Schumacher's the guy. And when Schumacher was the man, he was the man. And here's the thing about Schumacher's career. When he was with Mercedes, I honestly thought exactly like Michael Jordan when he was with the Wizards. The difference is between Wizards, when MJ and Schumacher, when he was in Mercedes, that Mercedes was not the glorified, magnificent goats right now of Formula One. No, Mercedes with Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton. This is when it was Schumacher and Nico Rosberg. This was the formerly known Braun team that used to be Honda, that used to be BAR Honda, that used to be the Tyrrell. Formula One ancestry is really compelling. It's one of the things I really love about Formula One is the ancestry side of things. This was the old, from the lineage, this was the Tyrrell back in the less than over 20 years ago. That Mercedes was a Tyrrell. 20 years ago, it was the first season for BAR, and BAR was absolutely garbage in 1999. Absolute garbage with Villeneuve and Ricardo Santa. The only thing beautiful about the 99 BAR was what the split pace scheme with Lucky striking 555, and when you see them wrecking Eau Rouge. Or Radon, actually. Depends how you view it, if it's Eau Rouge or Radion. I apologize wholeheartedly if I butchered the name. But that is the debate this year. That was a debate this year. Eau Rouge or Radon. Radion. I should stop pronouncing stuff, seriously. But Schumacher, Mercedes, the thing is, while he had some good runs in and there, it was just like nowhere near like when he was with the Benetton and the Jordan, even the short-lived stint with the Jordan, the 7-Up car, or even Ferrari. Of course, he's been out of Formula One from 07 to 09, and the sport completely changed from that point. Different car, different tire, different everything in Formula One. Everything was different. So the adaptation was a struggle. But it doesn't matter about the struggle, because I still view Schumacher as the one of the GOATs of Formula One all time. Like, sure, he's had some controversies, but in a time that it's hard to imagine, it's been 5 years since his horrific skiing accident, and little is known about his health progress. But the fact that Schumacher's still around at 50 years old is amazing. It literally is, because if it wasn't for Schumacher, who knows if I would have followed Formula One? Who knows if I would have followed racing? Because Schumacher was an instrumental factor in me branching out of the NASCAR world and talk about, and even be passionate about racing. Now, what led to it? I talked about Michael Jordan, I talked about Schumacher, talked about the NASCAR race I want to do, talked about the IndyCar. Oh yeah, IndyCar. I said Long Beach is a must, Portland is for certain, Bellagio is a possibility. I thought of doing Texas, but that's probably not going to happen now with the certain sanctioning body switching the race to another month or another weekend. And probably I might, I don't know if I will. It's still up in the air whether or not I'll do Laguna or 09 WeatherTech. I call it Laguna Seca, much like how Canadian Tire, I call it Mosport. Or in 2019, I'm going to refer it still as Safe Go Field instead of T-Mobile Park. More on the Mariners throughout the series and throughout 2019. Because I will tell you this about the Mariners. 62 wins, 100 losses. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. It's going to be within that range. If they win more than 62 games, impressive. I have no hope for the Mariners this season. You think I'm going to trust another rebuild compared to, look what Houston are doing. Look what Oakland are trying to become. What has the Mariners have done? Choked in the summer? Get rid of every key guy that they got? If there's a vote of no confidence in sport, that's it. The Mariners are a vote of no confidence, and we're not making the playoffs. The streak will continue, and I'm willing to bet the Cleveland Browns are gonna give up number 2 and hand it over to the Miami Marlins next season. Because look what the Browns did. If it wasn't for the stupid tie, and it wasn't for a loss in week 2 by St. Gonzalez, they would have had a winning record. The Cleveland Browns, even week 4, they could have possibly been undefeated to that moment. And who knows, the Cleveland Browns would have made the playoffs if it wasn't for those stupid kicker fucking it all up. Who knows what would have happened for the Cleveland Browns if it wasn't for St. Gonzalez. And lo and behold, St. Gonzalez got a job elsewhere, whereas Blair Walsh deservingly got nothing. Seriously, he got nothing. He's got He deserves to do nothing in the NFL for what he's done for the Seattle Seahawks in 2017. The fact that we're in a wild card game with the Cowboys is impressive, because I was one of those that thought we're going to be 4-12. Because the 2017 the Blues was stuck in my tongue for a long time. And then when they started winning, when they had those young players rising, Chris Carson and Tyler Lockett having their best seasons yet, Bobby Wagner being a monster and a beast, and Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson. The fact that we're in a wild card spot, we've had a winning season and won 6 more, six more games than I thought they would. I'm happy. I'm confident about the Seahawks in the future. The Pete Carroll contract extension to boot. We'll see what will happen. I feel like Carroll is more of, it's got that college mentality that you develop them really well, they'll deliver right out of the gate for about 3 to 4 years. I feel like we could see another feat, that maybe a Super Bowl opportunity may be there. Who knows? It's the NFL. Anything can happen, to be honest. Unless if it's the AFC, where you can guarantee that the Patriots will more than likely be the #1 seed. Or, at worst, the #3. Number 2. Kansas City is the other one with the first round bye. But yeah, those are my little NFL Seattle sports talk. But yeah, I'm excited about Media Day. I will tell you what Media Day I'll be doing once everything is all finalized. I have the flights. I have the place to stay. I have everything sorted. It's just a matter of when I can finally unveil it. I don't know when it will be. Could it be the next episode or the episode after? Who knows? But as far as getting over, I feel like doing this, showing race content, discussing about the races, even expressing thoughts about music or Seattle sports may be my way to getting over. You know what else I'll try to do to get myself over? Is to keep being original. Whether people want to admit it or not, originality is lacklustrous. Whether people want to admit it or not, you don't have to be in a clique. You don't have to be in a tight group to get yourself over. I've been trying to get myself over by myself the longest of time. It has worked sometimes, it has not. More on a lot of occasions, but guess what? To get over is to keep it consistent. Sure, this may be the consistent series, but hey, if I keep it consistent and keep bringing the topics and more people will gravitate to this series, then people will see what I can bring to the table. By showing you race weekend videos or what the events that I'm covering, without showing my face, I might add, or going too beyond the boundaries. If you want an example of what my videos may look like, look no further than Urinator3's videos when he went to the game against the Steelers and Saints in New Orleans, and the magnum opus. Can't really say magnum opus because when anything Steelers and Urinator3 is absolute gold. The other one is the Dallas Cowboys video where he went to Cowboy Stadium and how he recapped his whole weekend. It's gonna be something like that, minus my face. And then with some tidbits. Hell, on the NASCAR TV graphics part 1 of Speech channel, I show you a snippet of the Will Power singing Red Hot Chili Peppers. Some stuff then and there may happen, but as far as what to expect, you should expect something like that from not exactly carbon copy like Urinator3, but something similar where I say like, "Greetings everyone, welcome to Portland, Oregon, or Darlington, South Carolina, or Seattle, Washington, as I'm getting ready to see X, Y, and Z do this and that." Something like that, I don't know. I'll have an idea as time rolls along, but February, I will tell you this about February. It's going to be a busy month. With the Every Red Flag Daytona 500 video, maybe I'll toss in some Xfinity Truck Series red flags, and maybe I'll do some different videos then and there. You never know when it comes to Auto Rock and Racing 94. But as I said, it seems like the only thing that will get you over on YouTube is, again, consistency. Doing memes, or I don't know, being a tight-knit organization. So what? I'm not in an established league. So what? I look at the numbers. Okay, numbers are one thing, but originality is key. Sure, there's some originality out there. Don't get me wrong. There are stuff out there, but there's so many. There's just carbon copy of this and that, or it's just like, okay, let's slap a clip in there, or often more or less don't credit the uploaders. And speaking of that, if you don't credit the uploaders, please do so, because it would be appreciated to them, because without them, none of this stuff would exist. That's my honest opinion. I hold strong belief. Without them, none of this would have been possible. You would not hear any of us talking about this stuff right now, or uploading this and that. For me, if I'm just known as the red flag guy who rants about number fonts and used to do potato camera crashes of Dirt to Daytona and Driven and NASCAR 08, that's fine by me, as long as I have something known for on a good light. For me, it's the red flag. But I want to expand beyond red flags, because to me, red flags are one thing. Those are stats. Those are information that I collected to power research and keep an eye on who's wrecked the most, or what races is this, or how many have been in this decade. There will be a video about that. Some days I already alluded to. But I want to expand beyond that. For me, You Think You Know Me is the outlet for me to do so. Also, the website that I write for allows me to talk about racing or bring news stories. And I call it as a way to expand the brand. This is my second full year of doing... I'm entering my second full year of doing racing articles for a website. I enjoy it. It's a pride. I take it for pride. I take it for passion. Last year, I did Portland, Sonoma for both IndyCar and NASCAR, K&N West races at Evergreen and Meridian, and Portland, if I didn't mention it already. I want to go further. I'm thinking East Coast. I'm thinking oval racing. I'm thinking every other month. I feel like I can pull this feat. I can pull this feat, which leads me, for me, to say this. I have 14 promises that I made myself for 2019. But since we're pushing 15 minutes, tune in for the next episode where I will talk about these promises that I have. There are 14 of them, and I'll explain why I want to get it done, or what it is about. And I'll say one of them right now. That the East Coast is a priority. Driving is a priority. As I mentioned, driving is an essential tool. For me, I feel like to get over, I need to have the car. I need to have a vehicle and a steering wheel to prove to get over. I'm not talking about a race car, because the race, 24-year-old me from the state of Washington trying to get her to start a racing career. That just doesn't happen anymore. That's probably why David Ruderman didn't last much long, really, in Cup. He had some good runs. 2010, he may have not gotten the best ride, but he wasn't a terrible driver. Everybody associates it, oh, he won the Coke 600 through the weather. Oh, he's the reason why Jeff Gordon lost in Martinsville and what triggered the whole Boyer-Gordon feud. And that's how Ryan Newman got another lucky win out of his ass. No. David Ruderman was not that terrible. He wasn't terrible. He got 2 wins. He won outright in Chicago. He was in the top 5 in points in the Busch Series in 07. Ruderman was a hell of a driver. The thing I feel like what bit him was his age. He was pushing 40 when he was a Cup rookie. You'll never see that again. Sure, we've had the Mark Thompsons and Carl Longs that made some starts well past their 40s. But, or even you have instances where like Hermie Sadler or Stanton Barrett run. But as far as a Cup rookie in the late 30s pushing 40s in the modern day, in the 2000s no less, in the late 2000s, you won't see that again. I can guarantee you won't see that again. That's what we're in a time period where you see like, wait a minute, how is he gonna run a full season? Why you put him in a full-time run? I think that's everybody saying about Matt Tiff and Tanner Berryhill right now. Tiff was, I felt like Tiff did better at RCR than Kyle Busch or Joe Gibbs. How about me to say that? Tiff had a pretty decent season at RCR and Xfinity. He did far better than he was at Gibbs. He did far better when he was at KBM. I don't expect much from him in Cup, especially in a third front row car. I don't expect much. It's a two-man show. It's literally a two-man show. Ryan Preece, Daniel Hemrick. Ryan Preece is the first Whelen Modified Tour champion. The first former champion to attempt the Sunoco Rookie of the Year honors for the Cup Series since Jeff Fuller, the 92 champion in 2000. And Jeff Fuller only ran 7 races, started 6 of them because he failed to qualify in 1 of them. For EO River Racing, he was the original Viagra man. People say Mark Martin. He was the OG Viagra master in Cup. Then they sacked him because he was garbage and was replaced by Mike Bliss. Fuller only made 1 additional start in 2000. But if you want to talk about Ryan Preece, let's go a little bit further. 1989, when Jimmy Spencer ran 17 of 29 races. He didn't make his debut until Dover, the 11th round. That is the last time a former modified champion ran a good or a sizable amount of Cup races as a rookie. The thing is, because he didn't make his debut till the 11th race to run the Buddy Baker Crisco car in the 88. Preece could be the first modern era driver to run every single race. Fingers crossed on that. I'm sure he'll be able to run all 36 races. If he can do what he could do at Gibbs, it's a bit of a stretch when it comes to JTG Dover Racing, but he earned that ride in my book. Sure, it's not the ride, but hey, don't count Ryan Preece out. It's just a matter of how well he does. And if he finishes in the top 25 in points, I consider it an okay season for him. But yeah, he could be the first guy in a modern era that won the Modified Championship to run the entire rookie season. Jeff Fuller was sacked. Jimmy Spencer didn't declare really at all. It's kind of like with Carl Edwards in 2004. That he was accredited as an 04 rookie despite never declaring at all because he was strapped in mid-season and ran pretty much every race since. Because it's this thing about modified drivers, which is also a different topic within itself. Why did the modified guys, more like why many of the Canon West hype drivers don't crack it out and don't make it to Cup or even last that long? That's a compelling topic that I would like to discuss later in this series and later this season, but at least before Speed Weeks rolls along. And yeah, and then Daniel Hemrick, which I feel he's gonna be he's the favorite for Rookie of the Year. I think he'll have a tremendous season. The thing is, can he finally win on a national tour? He hasn't won a NASCAR race. He's been really good. He had many instances where he should have won, but he's never won a NASCAR race at all. Who knows what kind of career he'll have, but those are the class of the field. Barry Hill and Tiff. Oh, the only thing as Matt Tiff, the only races I feel like he may have an really impressive result are the road courses. I have high hopes that he can do well on the Sonoma and Watkins Glen. We'll see how he does. I'd like to see him run Sonoma. He will run Sonoma, I hope. Depends how he does in the season, but we'll see how he'll do at Sonoma. That'll be one guy I'll keep an eye on, Sonoma. No, I don't expect him to win. No, I don't expect him a top 10. Top 15. How about that? I expect him to be top 15 at Sonoma. If he does that, good for him. Tanner Berry Hill. Yeah, enough said about Tanner Berry Hill. I wish that 97 team the best. I really do. I wish them the best. So yeah, we're near the conclusion of episode 6 of Easy You Know Me. Let's give you a quick summary of what I've discussed. I talked about how to get over in this YouTube world, and it ultimately comes down to consistency and originality, and also just keep it rolling and rolling. I talked in elaborate detail about the Red Flag series, what I plan to do with it in 2019. I'll be doing a media day event, and I will also do some race reviews, document the ones that I'm at. Next week will be about the 14 promises that I want to accomplish in 2019. That will continue the discussion on how I feel like I would get over in the grand scheme of things. So, one thing that will help me to get a quote-unquote over is what you're seeing right now on the screen, the social media plugins. If you want to see my journey, if you want to see news, updates, my works, and photos of the races that I go, those are your two destinations to find me in this journey. I encourage you guys to do so because I have some racing photos, I have some interesting discussions, opinions, and also, of course, again, my works. And you'll see my works. And I'll also write multiple columns for that website, usually on a monthly basis. If you want to hear my take on certain topics, I've spoken about Casey Kane and his impact in the state of Washington. I talked about how the modern day races at the Daytona International Speedway have been absolutely atrocious when it comes to driver mentality. If you want to watch excellent driver mentality, is the 1999 Daytona 500, especially the closing laps. That is what I'm talking about. If you see that entire race and you see how they made their moves, sure, the double yellow line has added more pressure and intensity. It's why a lot of people have not used their heads all that well. But when you look at those close calls, you'll be saying to yourself, man, if it was today, the whole field would have wrecked already. It was a chess match. Now it's just plowing to everybody. Let's see if we can survive, and we'll only have 10 cars in the finish. And this is where you see a guy like a Tanner Berryhill or a Matt Tiff get a top 5 out of his ass randomly. But it's more than like, I don't know, with the new rules package, who knows how those races will be at Daytona and Talladega. I don't know how it'll be. But don't, like everybody speculates, don't expect 190. Don't expect 200 at all. Be lucky to expect 180. Some people have said, nowhere near 200. That is a certain. That is a lot. Nowhere near 200. Just keep an eye on the speed. And we'll see how that package goes. And I'll give my thoughts on how the package is. Because my goal is to be more detailed, more elaborate, more analytic when it comes to those races itself. And share it to you guys. Alright. So that will do it for this episode of You Think You Know Me. I hope you enjoy this discussion and hearing me out. How I feel about certain things and where I stand with in this whole YouTube world. I mean, I'm just the indie guy. I'm just basically a nobody that's just only known for red flags. You won't see me on any top 10 list at all. But hey, if you guys stick with me, the road will be worth it. I can guarantee you that. The red flags won't go away. TB graphics will still be around. This series could be the most consistent thing I can do. And if we keep it going, I promise you, I will be over. It's a stretch, but it could happen. You never know. I'm going to be genuine, legit, and honest in any thought that I have in mind. And if I'm not, I'll call myself out for it. So, without further ado, thank you for listening in. Until we meet again, make sure you check out my videos that I've done over the years. Some are great, some are cringeworthy, and some are factual. For now, catch you later. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I can announce what media day it is. I just can't right now. But next week will be my 14 promises and why it matters to me and why I feel like this will be the step of getting over in the world of YouTube.